Here we will be focusing on manipulating walls, inserting doors and windows, as well as some important tips that can be useful during your learning process. Let's go through it. We are going to start drawing walls in the floor plan level 1, which is the ground floor. In the description of this video, I attached the link where you can download this exercise. It's going to be easier to follow this tutorial. Okay, we are going to click on the command Wall Architectural. And now I want to show you something when we draw the wall. The length dimension increments that you see on the screen depend on the zoom that we are using. For example, I zoom out and you can see that now the dimension changes with the precision of the meter. Also, unlike AutoCAD, when I click to place the wall second point, the length will be exactly what says in the label. Now let's zoom in a bit. And at this moment, the values change in a range of 0.1 between each other. Zoom again, a bit more, and the values are even more closely. This time it's snapping every 0.02 meters. These settings can be edited in Snaps, located in the Manage tab. It's this icon over here. In the window that opens, the section above is exactly what I was talking about before. Dimension snaps. In length dimension snap increments, it indicates the ranges that I am using. The first value is when I am at a minimum zoom. The ranges are in the meter. At certain point, it snaps every 0.1 meters and so on. I'm going to change it in order to have just 3 ranges and the last one 0.01. Okay, let's draw the exterior walls. I set the location line on core face exterior and draw in the clockwise direction. It's simple, I just insert the dimensions that I have on the plan. If I miss a length, like what happened here, I press Escape twice, select the wall, and simply change the dimension to the correct one, 6 meters. Then, activate again the command Wall to continue. I place the first point here, then keep drawing until I reach the beginning. So I finished the exterior walls. Now, suppose I want to change the wall type to have a different thickness. The current one has a width of 140 mm. It's too thin. I have to change it to 300. I click in this option. As the location line is there, if I choose a thicker wall, the external border doesn't change. You see, the wall just goes inside. However, if I drew these walls using the core face interior, this time the location line would be there, and change the thickness, it's the internal side that keeps the same measurement. Next part, draw the interior walls. This time I chose this type with 14 centimeters of thickness. And it's not very important which wall I start, because in Revit it's quite easy and intuitive to change the position of the walls after drawing. You will see. I start with this vertical one, because I know it intersects this corner. Then, the wall that divides the left part in 2 rooms is located at this distance of 3.8 from that external wall. One good way to make it is going to the endpoint at the corner, drag up and type the distance. Next, let's continue to draw the bathroom. Here, I use the same method. Drag down, type a distance of 2.2 to start the next wall there. Then the next is 1.13. And the vertical that comes, as I don't know the length, I place it more or less there. After I can correct it, it's not a problem. Then this one is 0.86. And the last I just connect to the external wall on the top. How to manipulate walls and dimensions. Whenever I select a wall, temporary dimension lines appear to measure the select element from the nearest perpendicular ones, usually the walls that have the same direction. Due to that, you can move the wall sideways easily. Just click and hold with the left button. At the same time, the intersect walls extend in order to not separate. However, I can't move the wall up or down due to constraints on the intersection angles there. In a situation where I have a diagonal wall intersect to the one that I want to move, in order to keep the same angle, it's becoming either longer or shorter, as you can see in this example. Another way of changing the wall position is modifying the temporary dimensions. Look what happens when I set this length to 4 meters. The dimension on the other side is also readjusted. Temporary and permanent dimensions. Temporary dimension lines only appear when I select certain elements. To make one dimension permanent, simply click on this symbol. Then click again in another place to put it there. The size of the dimension lines depend on the current scale. That's because the dimension lines in Revit are annotative. I am going to change the scale to half. It's this icon here. 150. And you can notice that the dimension lines and the wall patterns changed. Now let's learn how to change these temporary dimensions. These dots indicate the position of the dimension line. For example, in this wall, the measurement starts on this side. If I click one time, it changes to the other side. Clicking once more, it measures from the width center. Instead, if I click and hold, I can move this baseline to a different place. Now it measures the full length of this wall, here in the bathroom. To measure a specific distance, we can click on this icon, Measure between two references. It's a very simple tool to use. It snaps two lines, wall center lines or intersections. Click for placing the start point, for example from this wall, until the one in the opposite side. Here you can see the distance. Another way of drawing walls or other elements in certain position can be with the help of detail lines. Go to the Annotate tab, click on Detail Line, and I will show you an example where this can be useful. I draw a line here because I want to use its midpoint to draw a wall. I type WA to activate the command to insert a wall, then I can find the midpoint and draw a vertical wall up to the top. But, okay, if I want it to be exactly in the middle between those two walls, I press Escape once and change the wall location to center line here, and now I'm sure it's exactly where I want it. So we can use detail lines to help us on our sketching, and when we don't need them anymore, we can simply delete them. But actually, the real purpose of detail lines is to provide extra information in your drawings. Here I'm going to use a detail line to separate different areas of a room. There are also different line styles to use that come with Revit. It's possible to edit its colors or shape and create new ones. I choose this hidden line, for example. It's a dashed green line, and suppose I want to draw it here to separate different areas of a room. Okay, this was just to show you the use of the detail lines. It's something interesting that has to be explored later in detail. But for now, let's go back to where we are. Add walls and windows to the floor plan. Revit provides a very intuitive option to insert windows and doors on the project. Those icons are located on the Architectural tab at the ribbon. I'm going to insert a door. For that, I have to place the pointer on the wall and simply click again in the place where I want to have it. If I move the pointer a bit down, the door opens to the other room. Another tip: press the spacebar to flip the opening. Now I can click. When I select a door element, it's still possible to flip by clicking on those controls over there. To change the door type, we do the same as for the walls. Click on this tab and select which one you would like to use. The doors that come with the software are named by the width and height dimensions, so this can be useful for us. I am going to choose a wider wall and look how the door is resizing from its center. Then it's normal that the distances from the corners are affected. Maybe I need to edit them again, if I consider it. To edit an element type, I select it and click on Edit Type. Here I can change the properties for this door type. For example, to change the width, just insert a different value. However, if I want to create a new type without losing this one, you can click on Duplicate, choose a name for it, then edit the parameters as you like. Aside from dimension blanks, there are analytic properties, which ones can be edited later on the project. Windows. To add a window to the project, I do exactly the same process as I want to add a door. Click on the icon. Then I hover the pointer on this external wall and click to place it. I'm going to insert more windows there. OK, now suppose that I want to change the type for some of the windows. To select several elements, I hold the button Ctrl while clicking on the windows. Then I change here to a double window type. And that's the result. Now I'm going to open a 3D view. As it doesn't appear on the project browser, I click on the View tab and go to 3D View. There are 3 types here, and I'm going to choose Default 3D View, this one. So, this is the 3D aspect of my project. I can change the view style to a more interesting one if I want. So, for example, I click in this one, Shaded. Now, going back to the windows, I select this one. And there is an important dimension in Windows we should specify: the sill height. It's the distance from the floor to the bottom of the opening. To edit it, I go to the Properties tab and change the current value to the one that I want. Now, if I look at the drawing, you can see the window moving up. Let's go back to the floor plan level 1. Suppose I want to change the sill height for all the windows in one time, and I will take the opportunity to show you a useful trick here. I select all the elements in the floor plan. I go to this tab, and here I can switch to the type of element that I want to show its properties. I choose Windows. Basically, if I change the seal height, it applies to all of the windows. Height of the walls. When we turn on the command wall, we can edit some of its properties at this panel. One of them is the wall height. The walls that I draw now will be set up with a height of 8 meters. By the way, I can only choose a value here because in this tab it says unconnected. However, instead of unconnected, I can specify that the wall will connect to a specific level. In this drawing, I want to connect to level 2. Then I'm going to open an elevation tab. It doesn't matter which one, I click on East. And here you can see the positions of each level in this project. The ones below level 1 are the levels for foundations, and they are below the surface. The level 2 is located at 3 meters above the surface. Now the walls that I have drawn before, as I haven't edited the height, they measure 8 meters and they don't connect to anything. If I select them, you can notice it here. But how to change this? Actually, it's quite easy. To make sure I don't miss any wall, I prefer to switch to the level 1 tab again. Select all the floor plan, and here I switch to walls. Right away, I'm going to change the top constraint here to up to level 2. Finally, going back to the elevation plan, you can see now the difference. Okay, you could now ask, if later I decide that I want to change the level of the floor above, how can I do it? Don't worry, it's easy. Click on the level and change the elevation to the one that you want. For example, 2.8 meters. The walls that connect to level 2 automatically update. Another thing, it's also possible to change the names of the levels. For example, I'm going to rename the level 1 to ground floor and level 2 to first floor.